before a team has been able to engage and get other kills. So you have to get some besides Leoric, at least that early on in fights.
All right, well, we're going to be going on to Sky Temple for game number 4 here in this series. So what do you make of Sky Temple? I think the Hacker is something which is going to be an obvious go-to ban again, trying to control that position. But from that point on, Abathur could be coming into contention.
Yeah, interesting for me, Roll20 moving into Sky Temple here. This is a battleground that I felt like Tempo Storm did look very strong on. They're very slow and methodical, and honestly don't play the most exciting playstyle, but they get victories, which is what matters towards the end there. I think this is a team that when I watch them, when they make early mistakes, they seem to fall off completely and wind up losing the game, like we saw there in Warhead Junction. Abathur pickup and the boss control. Coming into Sky Temple, this is a place that they call home, it seems like. If they play their game here, don't make any early game mistakes, I can see them making a comeback.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen Tempo Storm play extremely heavily macro games on Sky Temple, just refuse to fight you once they get that early game advantage. So this could definitely be a map that they're confident in, and they're going to need to. They're on match point.
I do feel like Roll20 knows Tempo Storm so well that they can abuse that, though. They can abuse the macro play and the passive play. So as long as Tempo Storm, if they want to play that style, they have to play a perfect game with it, kind of like they did versus Red Cannon. Well,
they need a perfect game because right now they're 1 game away from elimination. So we get back to the same sentiment that I mentioned between L5 and Nomia, where we saw the Asmodan actually come out. What does Tempo Storm do now to keep themselves alive in this playoff, never mind in this series?
Man, yeah, you got to put it all on the line here. I mean, as you guys are mentioning, this is possibly the last game of the tournament, and then they need to go home. So I would love to see some variety. It might not be their MMO, especially coming to this battleground, but at some point, instead of constantly running away, surprise your opponent and just go for an all-in engage and completely throw Roll20 off. I think Roll20 here, if they play their early to mid game pretty well and they also are willing to trade out infrastructure whenever Tempo Storm's doing this whole dance thing, I can see Roll20 running away with the game.
All right, draft is on. Game number 4 here as Tempo Storm look to keep themselves alive in the mid-season brawl. 2-1 currently to Roll20.
Both of the teams in the draft have to remember that it could come down to a boss, because in North America with Sky Temple, it seems like whoever is behind in structures, when they catch up in a talent tier, whether it's at 16 or 20, they're going to try to force a boss fight in order to capture the wind when they're behind structurally. So both of the teams will be keeping that in mind as we move through the draft.
It's interesting how different regions handle that boss in this battleground. In EU, at 9 to 10, whoever gets 10 first, they snap run for that boss and try to push in the bottom lane here. So yeah, I'm excited for the boss play.
Yeah, and speaking of the draft plans here, Tempo Storm has gone back to first banning the Medivh. Interesting to note that last game Glaron did get that Medivh, and you know, they did end up winning that game. So Tempo right now, I would say they're on a very comfortable draft plan with the first pick Genji, very comfort, and the banning out of the Medivh.
Yeah.
Roll20 responding with some very heavy power picks though. Nubrak Dahaka is extremely strong on Sky Temple.
For Tempo Storm, I feel like they need to change how they're prioritizing Malfurion and either take him here or ban him out. We have seen that Roll20 is willing and capable to execute an Anubarak Cocoon into a Twilight Dream on a Genji and delete him.
It seems comfortable, and even when Fan was actually showing that boss play, we saw the Malfurion actually so well positioned with the Atanis to just kind of make sure he was well defended while all of those engagements were going on. So it feels like a real comfort.
I do want to see a Malfurion in the next 2 picks here, but I am not convinced that Tempo will be picking that up. The other thing that I want to see is a way to deal with Cocoon, and that can be with Ethereal through Sanctification, can be through Tassadar, just auto attack and Storm, or Li Ming with Disintegrate. And they go with the Abathur again. I think that's a good option as well. I keep forgetting about that hero. Just such a power pick in this tournament.
You say that, but this Arthas, this early, could there not have been other things that they go down before bans? Or do you think that it would have been banned out from the second rotation?
Yeah, I do like the Abathur pick, but I don't like the Arthas pick. It reminds me of the Muradin that North America kept first picking when the other team had a Nubrak.
Yeah.
Are Roll20 gonna ban out Arthas? I would bet money that they wouldn't. And so why are you picking the Arthas there over something like the Malfurion or even the Greymane?
When we were talking about that Muradin specifically, it was more like, it's not like we feel like it's going to be taken away, but it's more like we don't want to give away what we want to get afterwards. So maybe Tempo Storm are just getting Arthas because he's a solid frontliner. He has the slows. He also will be a good clone target for Abathur to have a double Arthas if they would like to do that, but also just so that they're not giving away what they want in these last 2 picks.
I love this ban. This Karazim ban makes so much sense here because Tempo Storm may have wanted to ban out the Malfurion, but if you ban out the Malfurion, Rhaegar gets taken away and suddenly Tempo doesn't have one of the mains.
Yeah, exactly. Roll20 have caught on to the fact that Tempo just not picking Malfurion and they're punishing them for it. I think that's an extremely smart ban here.
So wacky conspiracy theory, they needed Arthur so much that they wanted Sindri Ghoster and they're going to go weird split push. They're going to go weird push strat. I mean, it's the last map. Like,
that's probably it, honestly.
There has to be something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just wanted the Arthas, unfortunately.
How much money would you bet, Caleris? Let's be real.
Oh, at least 20 sec. It's not that much, it's €2.
Oh, that's a lot of euros, though. That's a lot of euros. That's a candy bar. Let's be real.
And you see Tempo is thinking so hard about this. I feel like they've almost been like checkmated just in their draft. With the Malfurion pick here, you're gonna be running into Twilight Dream and you're running a mass melee composition again. The only saving grace is they still can get the Tyrael for the Sanctification to deal with Twilight Dream, but other than that, you know, just giving up the Malfurion yet again to Roll20.
Gosh, I loved that little maneuver so much in draft. That's what makes draft special right there for you at home. So Malfurion picked up and the gray main, Roll20 having a composition that they are very familiar with. And now it's time for Tempo Storm to show us what exactly their plans are here with Arthas, Genji, and Abathur. Obviously, you're going to need a healer, but what special pick could they be holding here to make sure they secure the win?
On Tempo Storm's side, it's hard to say. Maybe something like an Illidan. They could be looking at something like that.
That's what I was wondering. And then you have already taken away Arthas as a potential counter versus the Illidan. Although Roll20 had already drafted 2 warriors, you don't see them fully commit to any further warriors than that. Illidan is what I'm guessing, as well as Rhaegar, but I doesn't feel especially impactful.
I would like the Illidan, especially if they're going to be going down the Rhaegar route. Typically, you go Rhaegar with double melee, or at least double tank, but he would be able to bolster that Illidan and be really strong. If they don't go that route,
maybe Tyrael, like I said before, just go into double tank, get the invulnerability, but I think those are the 2 most, and they just go with the Li Ming.
Okay, then. Li Ming and Rhaegar will be the final pickups, and now over to Roll20. Looking for maybe a little more damage?
Yeah, I do want to touch upon the Li Ming pick here. I actually like the Li Ming pick. I said earlier I wanted them to pick up a way to deal with the Cocoon, and finally they have, you know, Disintegrate, basically just one-shots Cocoon instantly. Very good counter. And by picking the Li Ming, they also kind of kite away from the idea of just mass melee composition. Genji can play at range if he wants to. Li Ming obviously will be playing further back. So I think their composition now is not quite as vulnerable to Twilight Dream.
The Glorong Zeratul is coming out. Look at that. Void Prison galore. We're about to see some plays.
If there was any draft that was more Roll20 than that one, it would have to have Medivh Diablo. That's the only thing I see. Otherwise, everything, such a comfort for all 5 members of Roll20. They got exactly what they wanted. I wanted to touch on the Li Ming too. What I said before for Tempo Storm is it hasn't always felt super impactful for them as a pick. I think largely because it doesn't feel like, or it feels like other teams are positioning more so that they can guarantee get resets. And since we've known that Tempo Storm has generally played more passively, you don't see them setting up to make those types of plays. So I'm really hoping that we get that from them, provided that they have a double reset composition here with the Genji too.
Is this draft good enough to keep Tempo Storm alive?
I think it can. It's going to be based on execution. Both sides have pretty much what they want from the looks of things, so it'll have to depend. One thing to note is that Glorong has not been playing Zeratul much ever since I played him in the playoffs of HGC NA. I've noticed that he's kind of been almost actively avoiding Zeratul. I think this is the first Zeratul game that I've seen him play since then. And it's going to be interesting to see if he's really still mechanically practiced on that. I think that's going to be a large deciding factor of this game.
Time for you know what?
I want a game 5. I want a game 5. So come on, Tempo Storm, give that to us.
I'm rolling the die on this one. It's going to be Roll20 walking with the victory here. They're going to get a 3-1 over Tempo Storm. I can just feel it. This composition is way too good for them. Super comfortable. And Glaurung returning back to Zeratul.
Fan?
Did you just kiss me?
I did not, but this is a close one. I was just lost in thought, you know, about who I think would win this. But I think I'm leaning slightly towards Tempo yet again. If their Genji Abathur, I consider to be very good against Zeratul. If you know how to play that matchup, you can pressure him really hard. So looking to see some kind of pressure into the Zeratul there. I'm going with Tempo Storm.
And I very rarely do predictions, but my artistic flair after last year kicked in, and I thought I'd make a little sign.
Did you really draw that? You commissioned that. No way.
No, I did draw that.
Oh, you're very talented.
Do you remember last year and I drew a load of ones for Stream Hackers again?
That's amazing. That's good.
So there we go. I'm probably going to go with... Hey, they even added me. I didn't expect that.
Nice.
Production killing it.
Very nice of them. All right, so let's see what Chatwell thinks as well as we do check out with those guys and see what's going on. Oh,
whoa.
Wowzers.
All right, bye, I'm off. 92% in favor of Roll20. All right, so we are ready to get into game number 4 here for the Mid-Season Brawl Playoffs. Will Roll20 go all the way, or will we see Tempo Storm stay alive? We're about to find out.
Here we go, Dread. Game number 4, where Tempo takes on Roll20. Tempo's lives are on the line, and Kalaris is an artist.
Kalaris bringing out the art form. You know, it was an impressive drawing, but, you know, I feel like the analysts had it on, nailed it on the head. The fact that Roll20 has comforts everywhere here. This is going to be a tall task for Tempo Storm. But on the left, in blue, is Justing on a new Barak, Yoda playing Dahaka, Buds on Malfurion, Prismaticism playing Greymane, and Glaurung on his Zeratul.
And on the right side, in red, will be Tempo Storm, and that's going to be Psalm on Genji, Cothenluck again on that Abathur, Fury on Arthas, Caterpillar on Li Ming, and June on Rhaegar. Give it up for Tempo Storm.
I mean, we find ourselves in a really weird position. Roll20, obviously being ahead 2-1 in the series. Tempo, the entire time, it's been whether or not Tempo makes plays or they try to wait for their opponents to make mistakes. And this draft feels a lot like they're, again, going to be waiting for Roll20 to make that mistake. The question really comes down to, will they make it? And with all that comfort, I mean, the odds feel very much against Tempo Storm, but they have been the most consistent team in North America for almost a year and a half. Except when it comes to international tournaments.
It's their time to basically show that they deserve to be at the top. One NA team will be in the top 6. One team will be out after this series. Tempo Storm has no lives left. And I agree with you, Dread. They have been consistent, but now is the time. If they're going to show they belong, they don't have any more options.
They don't have any more options. So now already the pressure coming out here. Justing needs a bit of damage. He's got the burrow away. It's going to be fine. Dahaka, though, finds himself conveniently in a 1v1 versus the Abathur on bottom, and that is a matchup that really complements Roll20. The flank coming out from Fury. The Howling Blast does not end up connecting, but it hits Buds. Beautiful self-root, and he does not get away. That is now a 1 reset, 2 resets, not a 3rd, but Tempo here is showing that they have some fight still left.
You talked about it, maybe Roll20 slipping. They were pushed very far in that lane, and you can see that Tempo capitalized on it. But Dread, we have entered our first Tempo phase where Tempo Storm gets a head start on the one up top and is getting some shots here in the middle.
And keeping the momentum flowing is going to be crucial here for Tempo. It starts with June getting the shots up on top. Fury, and look at that flank coming out from Psalm over onto the mid. You can tell they still want these skirmishes. So they're going to get the first couple of shots here, even going into the Adrenal Overload there onto the Abathur, showing that they are focused on their hat target being a massive kill death ball.
You know, this is the second time we're seeing Genji not going into the questing town at level 4, opting to go more into the E build. So it's kind of been a contrast of styles at times, depending on the map and depending on the enemy team. And you got to wonder, is that having an effect? Because it hasn't seemed to pay off just yet when it comes to these team fights for Genji getting those resets.
Yeah, I like the talent choice, even though it is still not working out for Tempo. Anything to accent the early game and help them statistically with those early levels. Glaurung, those shows here on bottom of the teleport, I thought for sure that'd be a Tempo flank. Instead, using their superior rotation to invade these Giants. A double Giant play coming out from Tempo. That's a really big win on this map. Scouting and just the map awareness, knowing Roll20 is just distracted with their Knights.
I want to see exactly how much they're going to do. Greymane obviously is on the Knights, but this is double siege camp pressure. They're going to get that. Dahaka was pushing that entire time, but opening up this bottom lane for the second Temple phase is a really big deal.
Jay Howe, Tempo Storm, when their back is against the wall, they cannot lose another game or they're knocked out of the tournament. They walk away from the mid-season brawl. And now they're the ones, they're invading camps. They're trying to make plays. They're looking to get anything when even the map objective is not down. This is only 3 minutes of play, but if they keep doing this, Tempo Storm very well may give us game number 5. I am excited.
I do like the fact that Roll20 is answering blow for blow here because they gave up a little bottom, and the minute Tempo Storm rotates to the top to clear the camp and grab their one of their own, Roll20 just pushes right back in. Good recognition, I think, by both these teams to try and take advantage, and now Fury. Oh, he's got to be careful. They're looking for the re-engage.
They're looking for the flank there, and Nubrak ends up getting the burrow, glowing with the teleport, but Buds is going to be the main focus. He is going to be the first reset once more. Justin should have a burrow available soon. Does he manage to make it out? No! Still off of cooldown. Tempo Storm, 4-0 in kills. This is what we have wanted for so long from this team.
They're going in, and they're not done yet. They're going to try and take this well before the next Temple phase starts. Regardless, the Temple value going to be high here for Tempo Storm. I really wonder if they're going to try and rotate to the top, though. Dahaka has been left alone trying to clear that camp, but Tempo Storm getting everything that they want so far.
And now we see, though, we have the mule available for Tempo Storm. Coming out of the Abathur there. Zeratul getting caught out through mid. Look at this. Tempo is capturing the shrine up on bottom, and they're still looking for picks and ganks. This is the aggression I have wanted from this squad for so long, and I'm so satisfied that it's going to be coming out here. But the question is it too late into the tournament? This is the last game. If they end up losing, they go home. Tempo cannot step down. They need this momentum to just be never-ending.
You ready for the mule versus mule? That might be never-ending.
Yeah, you know, shots on bottom will not confirm this mid-4, so it will allow it to heal all the way up thanks to the mule. But Tempo Storm find themselves with that 10 advantage. So yeah, it is, we'll keep track of that. That's really cool that we do find ourselves with that double mule play. But the boss started for Tempo. It's going to be a trade. Really? You know, Roll20 gains maybe more than this than Tempo Storm because this boss is going to be an easy clear.
It's going to be an easy clear for sure. I mean, you've got 10. That experience that you gain up at the top for Roll20 off of that fort is ideal. You saw that experience bar jump up quite a bit, trying to close that gap to 10, make for a little bit easier defense and potential fight here in the middle. As you can see, Solomon team definitely want to try and take down this fort before the mule can hit it again.
I want to see that rotation now to top out of Tempo Storm. Never give anything up. Bottom front wall is going to be effective, yes, but opening the map, what that can do for this roster and ridding of any mule opportunities very early on. But Tempo Storm, in fact, they're going to back out. They look to deny more mercenary camps, look for a couple of skirmishes. So still reserve play from Tempo. They have kept up a better tone, without a doubt, into this game. I don't think that necessarily this lack of looking for something is a huge misplay, but it is still maybe a little bit less than I wanted to see.
I think I just saw a little bit of a misplay on Mule there, so it could come down to how much value do you get out of Mules. Your structures are your lifeline against the objective on Sky Temple, and that was cleared by the boss. It was timing and positioning seemed a little bit off there. So small things like that, as minuscule as it seems, Dread, could have big impacts later.
They very much do, especially with that double Mule matchup that you bring up. You know, if one team is the one to be able to provide it and it just gets easily cleared, then it's essentially Mule's game. But now that we find ourselves where it could come down to the later trading of shots and the global advantages, I agree with you. We need to see that from them. And for anybody at home, if you run Mule, in case you didn't know, the boss, every boss in the entire game actually searches for Mules, identifies them, and will always kill them.
And if you're wondering what was going on there as well, timing camps around objectives is one of the most impactful things you can do to control lanes, to control the game, and to control rotations of your opponent. They've now picked up the siege camp bottom. They're looking towards this. Remember, that bottom temple will shoot top fort first, and then once it's done with the forts, it will shoot to the bottom lane keep.
Tempo Storm not only has a level lead, they have structural advantage when it comes to all the HPs, as they do have 2 forts. So trading shots is at the advantage here. Going over to Tempo Storm once again, they're doing everything right in this game. So how does Roll20 come back? Where is the moment where they find their own momentum?
As you can see, Tempo, they're getting every inch that they possibly can. Push up, get a few shots onto the towers, and then let the Temple shoot the rest of the way. They will have to respond to that camp that will be pushing top lane, but they are obtaining all of the shots in the bottom.
They are getting those shots. We have to look at the HP here once these shots confirmed from Roll20. Whether or not Tempo Storm has a surviving mid-4. If it does, again, that is a double fort up. It will survive.
This is just...
Tempo is only going to have 1 fort down as we have now rounded out the 3rd Tempo phase on Sky Temple.
And as you said, trading temples is the biggest thing. And we see right now 13 to 12, but it's closer to 14 to 13 in this element. And if you can get to 16 first, if Tempo Storm, you can play the talent tier advantage, which is something they know that they can do, something that they've done before. And Roll20 recognizes that, Dread, not letting Mule get that value.
Yeah, and one thing as well to look at the later part of this game for Roll20, now they have much less. They're limited in the win conditions because they are struggling on the HP of that mid-fort. If it does not die here or Tempo Storm is able to force this fight, it really is going to be devastating in the back part of the game. Roll20 will always have to match what Tempo Storm decides, and you never want to do that on Sky Temple. That is worst case scenario, especially post-20.
Out comes
They're going for it.
Glaurung trying to take it down, but now
it survives.
He does not have his blink out. There it goes. Dahaka starting to flank June on the bottom side. June is going to be in trouble. Glaurung and Yoda are on top of June.
The Dream!
He's not going to be able to walk away. Twilight Dream is hit.
And they get the Dream onto Yoda as well. No Army of the Dead is going to be usable here. The chase is real. Now Glaurung takes a bit of damage, but Genji falls down. The Mule still ticking away at that mid-fort, but now with 2-3 members dead, Roll20 should not only be able to clear up this Mule, clear up this fort, they should be able to get bottom fort as well. And now, suddenly that limited win condition I was just referring to is non-existent. Roll20 find themselves back in this game.
June has to recognize his positioning there. You have the audible sound of Dahaka. He flanks. Zeratul was there. Not enough peel from his team. Perfectly played by Roll20. And just like that, Dread, 2 forts going down that somehow survived this long. Just dashed away.
That is exactly what I wanted to see here from Roll20. Perfect rotations, not giving any moment or opportunity to wait around because you can't do that into Mules. The minute you win fights, you have to go, how many structures can we get and how many can we get 100 to 0? Because you leave anything remaining, all your time is wasted. So that was flawless rotations here from Roll20. They've got the 16s and now we have 2 altars.
We have 2 altars. So here's a few things that are in play right now. You have 2 altars and a global. I say the global because you have a boss that is now spawned. So depending on where Tempo Storm goes, they don't have 16. They're down talent tier, they're down a global. They lost so much control in the last minute and a half that right now every decision they make could be just devastating. It already went from bad, let's hope it doesn't go to worse.
And now we haven't even really seen, I feel like, a fight where we get to watch Glaurung on that Zeratul thrive. Now hitting the 16 mark, the kill potential of a Zeratul, he can just essentially almost 100 to 0 any of the squishy backliners, especially if they are lacking those defensive cooldowns. Tempo, you see them looking for experience around. Roll20 is trying to make sure they do not give any experience up, again, because they want to limit those 16s, confirming these shots. Tempo, though, they're closing in. This is going to be the fight.
They're closing in on 16. They have a camp pushing top. Look for them to engage. They already gave up a tremendous amount of shots. They'll have to defend a siege camp of their own at the bottom, but you got to think for Roll20, them obtaining all of those shots is already a win. Anything else is going to be a bonus, especially when you look another temple phase all the way top. You have that global. Boss is in bottom. One of these teams might potentially make a play on the bottom boss.
I mean, this top shrine / boss play that is going to happen here in the next couple of minutes is going to give the team such a big momentum swing that they should be able to win this game. Tempo, you can see the fear here. They don't want to fight directly. They're trying to find the right window. It's very important to be able to do that whenever you have an Abathur composition. Fury now moving up. He gets revealed. Glaurung goes in, gets a bit of damage. The clone's going to drop, but they want this fight.
They want this fight for sure, as now all of a sudden Justine forced to burrow out, but on the backside, Dragon Blade is in. The triple root, the cocoon is out as well, but Buzz has hit the Twilight Dream.
Look at that knock-up immediately after. Oh my, the peel coming out here. Yoda just dominating June on the backline, and now we find Tempo Storm in full retreat. Glaurung, Vorpals locks it down. Tempo is falling apart.
Tempo's falling apart, but they are trying to take down the tongue. Is going to grab him in and pull him in, but Psalm able to get away from the clutches of death. But Roll20 taking down 2 members They're going to push in, and Dread, there's still a Temple stand.
As long as they secure this front wall and a bit more damage onto the turrets, that shots will 100% get that keep. But this fight, the rate at which Temple was able to reveal the Cocoon, I thought they had an opportunity. But Buds, with those Twilight Dreams, Fan talked about it. You have a Death Ball comp. You can't ignore the Malfurion, and Buds puts on a clinic as to why.
This is just going to be a tough comeback for Tempo Storm as the top keep.
It should end up falling, but the Mule.
The Mule will keep it alive, I think.
Mule.
The next few shots, this is going to be close.
There's no way. That Mule's got it.
Yeah, that's healthy enough.
Feels good. If you're a Tempo fan right now, that structure up feels really good. But this is their answer. They say, we realize this is going grim. How can we force a fight? They're going to posture around the boss. Void, 15 seconds away. Dream up in 5. Cocoon is here, and there is very little boss control on the side of Tempo Storm, but they're all ending this, J-How.
They are. This could be the deciding factor. Yoda has joined the backside. The
Cocoon?
Boss, no! The Cocoon is going to knock him down!
They got the boss. Roll20 gets it, and they get the pick. Tempo Storm, they need to withdraw, or this could be game.
It could be game. The Mule coming down in the middle there, but Fury is being chased down. The Abathur head is going to keep him alive for them both.
Void!
The DP is on to 2 people. The drag on the Fury is going to be his demise. The clone is out, but it might be too late, Dread.
It feels like it is here, J-How. The boss is moving outward. The clone is merely trying to just slow the members of Roll20, advancing now to the core. 20 will be picked up here slightly after the front wall. We have 17 seconds till we find ourselves a Genji. Yes, this is a keep, but what can Roll20 do? Can they stagger those deaths? Because if so, they could have the game, even 15 minutes in.
Watch for Glaurung. He's flanking bottom right. He wants 20. He's got rewind. There it goes. There's the first part.
He goes.
There's the second.
No mana. He's out of mana, but they go the vorpal.
They get him.
They got him.
Just like that, Glaurung, despite going down, they have eliminated the biggest threat of leaving. The shields are going down on the side of Tempo Storm, and now Roll20 is going to take this game.
Roll20 just did it again at LAN, showing that they are the strongest international representative of North America. 3-2-1. Take down Tempo Storm.
That rewind, the minute 20 hit. Glaurung says, team, get on my back. We're going in.
Oh, man, we've seen it time and time again from Glaurung. He is an absolute monster on that hero. The impact he can have. I mean, it's so much so we can see it. It feels like 20 seconds ahead. You can't give him those circumstances because he will always execute. And with that, we send home Tempo Storm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, both the NA teams matched up here. One of them had to go home. Tempo Storm, they've got to be a little bit disappointed right now, but Roll20, North America's hope, they've earned everything that they've gotten to this point, Dren.
They were, for North America, before we started HGC, they were projected to be a mid-tier team. They came out and impressed everyone. Then they perform at the Western Clash to represent the best team in North America. They struggle early in part number 2, but back once more, they show that they have what it takes. I am so looking forward to the future of this squad.
Well, they've secured their spot amongst the top here in the world, but we want to hear what the breakdown is on the side. I can't wait to hear and see fans break down as well. We're going to hand it over to Caleres.
That's right, Roll20 secure themselves a top 6 to begin things out, but unfortunately for Tempo Storm, their road comes to an end. I'm joined by Gillyweed, Trixler, and Fan here as we talk about how this series went down. And overall, that was a good showing coming out from Roll20 there, with Tempo Storm looking a little bit desperate towards the end.
Yeah, every time Buds gets Malfurion, it feels like the story of the fight is if there's a lot of melees, and there were in this instance, they all collapse, he ice blocks, comes out of it, everyone's waiting for him there to try to kill him, he Twilight Dreams, and then everybody is silenced and in shambles, running away from the fight, and off the back of that, Glaurung can pick people off one by one. Roll20 was the better team today, getting a 3-1 victory and moving on in the tournament.
Yeah, on the flip side there, Roll20, as you mentioned, the team fights were just stellar. There was a point here where Tempo Storm was ahead in terms of macro play, but Roll20 has the coordination and the focus to always pick off a support right away.
Yeah.
Poor June, man. Every time he came in for a rotation to save a teammate, Dahaka on the brush chalk into a Zeratul, came in for the kill. That happened so many times it came down to Roll20 just walking away with the victory.
It's not like they could even really punish the Malfurion with the Twilight Dream at all, because all you have is an Arthas root,
Yeah.
but no actual stun or proper interrupt to get him out of that Twilight Dream when it's about to happen. So you have to play super careful in that instance.
Yeah, you really do. And, you know, going back to what Trick and Gilly said, I really feel like this was kind of Tempo's game to win. Like, earlier games in the series, actually, I felt like were Tempo's games to win as well. They were a level and a half ahead at 10 with an Abathur composition, completely crushing the early game. But again and again, it's just in the team fights later on in the game, I just don't see the coordination from Tempo Storm, and I don't see the decisiveness, and they just fall apart. They give up their leads, and they lose the game. I do have another replay here for us. So this is the top Tempo fight here, and if we can just pause right here. So this fight actually starts pretty good. We can see the Arthas clone coming here. They're gonna actually force Roll20 to retreat. The important thing to keep in mind here is there's going to be a Dahaka burrow. And I feel like this is pretty uncharacteristic of June to be, you know, staying in this bush. There's only 3 bushes here, and the most likely bushes for Dahaka to burrow in is this one. A lot of indecisiveness from Tempo Storm and June here. He stays on top of the Dahaka and basically gets soloed out in this fight. So if we continue on here, we can see the fight starts. The Haka burrows into the backline. So it's a good fight here. They're calling for a retreat. If we can pause again, we see in the backline here, you see slightly off camera, June is dying to the Haka 1 versus 1, getting soloed out. That should never happen in my opinion. We see the Roll20, they're being pushed back, but in this position, they instantly web wrap the Genji here, negating the effects of the Dragon Blade. And then Glau has a very nice VP. Just Cocoon plus VP negates Dragon Blade. Kato isn't able to get enough damage onto the retreating backline. And the turning point happens when basically here, team is ignoring June because they're going in for the kill. June dies, Roll20 turns around here and just crushes this fight. So yep, well, overall, pretty well played by Roll20, but Tempo Storm definitely lacking a bit in the decisiveness and in the just kind of team cohesion, I'd have to say.
Good stuff as we do come out of this now, and we do have Glaurung with us as we continue on down the line. I love how intently you also watch this. It's just happened, but let's watch it again.
I mean, watching yourself win is like a really good feeling.
Yeah.
It's like there's 2 sides of the equation. If you watch yourself lose, it hurts more than anything else. Yeah. But if you watch yourself win, it feels really good.
So firstly, congratulations, 3-1 victory there. The road is by no means over yet because you have a lot of fearsome opponents to come up against, but your thoughts winning that series, going into that series, how did you feel?
I think the tournament couldn't have been set up better for us in this position. Obviously, starting in the losers bracket is tough, but facing Tempo Storm, we're familiar with them. Yeah. It allows us to become more comfortable on stage. Like day 1, I would have been a lot more nervous if we were playing a team we're not super familiar with on stage.
Right.
So I think today is going to help a lot going into the future matches. But like you said, we have a really long road ahead of us, and I really don't want to let North America down again.
Okay, guys.
I mean, we just saw you taking on the Li Ming there, and you kind of like cheered over here on the side. How'd it feel to dust off the Zeratul and bring it back in a tournament play?
The thing is, Zeratul is still probably one of my favorite heroes, one of my best as well, and I haven't had the opportunity to bring it out. But like, especially with Buds on Malfurion, we have such a good synergy, like most of the time, that we just are comfortable picking Zeratul even into really bad matchups. Like Genji Abathur is definitely not a good matchup for Zeratul, but regardless, I know when I'm in trouble, I'm gonna get saved, and Void Prison's just broken.
Well, you came in and game number 1 versus MVP Black were able to shut out a Korean team, and then since then have gotten so many respect bans from your Medivh that it basically changes how everyone else drafts versus you guys. I just want to know how that feels to you as the Medivh player, the captain of the team.
Personally, it's like, it's pretty awesome, but like strategically, I think it gives us an advantage that other teams don't in this tournament. It opens up the draft a lot. Like we were able to, because we knew they were going to ban Medivh most games, we were able to target like the support pool quite a bit in the pick ban phase. So the fact that they're willing to give us a draft advantage because they don't want to play a specific thing, I think is a really good thing for us.
It's very important that, obviously, because in all of those games, you didn't even have to really go towards Malfurion, but you got it anyway because it seemed like Tempo Storm had a limiting factor there. That hurts them significantly in those drafting phases. Ben, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I have to ask, you know, multiple times throughout this series, you guys were fairly far behind. For example, just that last game coming into 10, they had the Abathur composition. You guys were about level and a half behind, and that happened on I think another map as well. So how do you kind of like keep your cool? What were you thinking in game during these times?
You just gotta remain conscious of your win condition, I'd say. Like, we fell behind on Battlefield of Eternity game 1, but we knew our win condition mattered most when the objective was up. And it's a similar thing on Sky Temple. We fell pretty far behind, but we were able to keep our cool and realize our win condition, which I think is really, really important. And we knew that regardless of how far we fall behind in rotational play, as long as we execute our win condition properly, we should be able to come out on top.
All right, well, thank you very much, Glaurung, and good luck in your future matches coming up, as we can check in with the bracket now and see exactly how things have played out so far here in the playoffs.